caught my fiancé with my brother the night before our wedding, so I ended it fast. I was 28 and thought I had it all set. Sydney and I had been together since high school, almost 10 years. We lived together, our families loved each other, and our wedding was the next day. The night before, she insisted I sleep at a hotel. Bad luck to see the bride, she said, so I packed a bag and checked in downtown. Around 10 p.m., I realized I forgot my dress shoes at home. They weren't just shoes, they were my dad's old pair from his own wedding, and my mom had given them to me for this day. I drove back to our place to grab them and leave. As soon as I pulled up, something felt off. Every light downstairs was dark. Sydney hated the dark. She'd leave lamps on even when she went to shower. I unlocked the door quietly and stepped inside. The air felt warm, like people had been there. I headed upstairs and heard laughing behind our bedroom door. I pushed it open. My brother was in my bed with my fiancé. For a second, my brain didn't even understand what I was seeing. Then Sydney looked up and screamed my name. My brother scrambled for his clothes, but I was already backing out. I don't remember the drive back to the hotel. I just remember sitting in my car in the parking lot, shaking and breathing like I'd been running. My phone kept buzzing. Sydney, my brother, Sydney again. When I finally looked, Sydney wrote, "It was one time. I'm stressed about the wedding. I needed to blow off steam." My brother wrote, "Please don't do this." I didn't reply. I blocked both of them. Then I started canceling everything. Venue, catering, DJ, flowers. One call after another, hearing people ask, "Are you sure?" And me saying, "Yes." I lost about 15 grand in deposits and didn't care. Around midnight, I called my parents and told them what happened. My mom started crying right away. My dad got quiet, asked if I was sure, then told me he'd deal with my brother. The next day, I watched the sun come up through hotel blinds and felt empty. Sydney came to pack her things later, but I wasn't there. I had a friend sit with her while she grabbed her stuff and left. After that, I stayed away from her, and I stayed away from my brother. My brother left the country not long after. My parents cut him off. I didn't chase answers. I just tried to rebuild my life. It took time, and it wasn't pretty, but I eventually met Ruby. Ruby was steady. She didn't play games. She was the first person I trusted without forcing it. We've been together 4 years, and our wedding is next week. Then last week, a message popped up from an account I didn't recognize. It was Sydney. She said she heard I was getting married again, and she was devastated. She said she'd never stopped loving me. She called us soulmates, and said she'd waited 12 years for another chance. Reading it made my stomach twist like it was that night all over again. I showed Ruby, expecting her to be worried. Ruby read it, looked at me and said, "Do you want to end this for real?" I said yes. Ruby smiled and said, "Okay, let's do it your way." I messaged Sydney back and told her we could talk. She replied so fast it was scary. She asked where, and then suggested a hotel room so we could have privacy. I told her to book a room for the next day and said I had to be careful so Ruby wouldn't get suspicious. Sydney bought it instantly. The next afternoon I went to the hotel. Sydney opened the door crying happy tears like we were in some movie. She hugged me tight and kept whispering, "I knew it. I knew it." She pulled me inside and started talking non-stop, saying she was sorry, saying she'd changed, saying she thought about me every day. I sat on the edge of the bed and nodded, letting her talk. My hands stayed cold on my knees. She kept reaching for my face like she wanted to rewind time. I checked my watch and said, "Just give me a minute." About 20 minutes in, there was a knock. Sydney flinched and asked, "Who's that?" I stood up and opened the door. Ruby walked in first, calm as ever. Behind her, our wedding party filed in, one after another. Every person wore a paper mask of my brother's face. Someone carried a cake. On top was my brother's face in frosting, smiling. Sydney stared like she couldn't move. The room went dead quiet for one beat. Then everyone yelled, "Surprise!" Sydney's face crumpled, and she started sobbing hard. I stepped forward and said, "You don't get to call me your soulmate. You don't get to reach into my life right before my wedding and act like you deserve a second chance." She tried to speak, but it was just choking sounds. I said, "You chose my brother in my bed the night before our wedding. That's who you are to me," she cried. "You didn't have to do this." I looked at the cake, and then at her and said, "You did this 12 years ago." Then I took Ruby's hand and walked out, and I didn't look back. Now our friends are calling me cruel for the masks. Was I wrong?